it's Cindy with Quilt Doodle Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to make this cute table runner. Isn't that sweet? It's part of the Mondays with Marcus program, and if you go over to my website, quiltdoodledesigns.com, you can download this free pattern. It's free, not going to cost you anything. And I also have available a very limited quantity of the kits to go with this table runner if you'd like to make it just like mine. And also I wanted to show you FlexiFuse. This is what I use for all of my applique. I really enjoy it. It keeps everything very soft and pliable. So, like I said, if you go on over, it's under the Mondays with Marcus tab on my website. You can download the Coneflower table runner. So have a great day. The Coneflower table runner can be found at quiltdoodledesigns.com. The sample is made with the Marcus Fabrics Collectible Calicos collection by Laura Beringer. To begin with, you're going to cut an 8.5 inch by 8.5 inch square for the applique center block. To quilt along with me, remember you can stop and pause this recording at any time and work on your table runner along with me. Out of your cream fabric, you're also going to cut 18 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch squares. So here's the tricky part. You want your table runner to appear scrappy. So from all your fat eighths, you're going to cut an equal amount of 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch squares. You will have 38 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch squares total. You then trace all your applique shapes onto the paper side of your fusible web. I like to rough cut around my fabric pieces and my applique shape, so I cut everything just big enough for my applique pieces, remember, do not cut right on the line for your applique shapes, but just around it and leaving a little bit of a margin. And I like to pair the pieces up with the fabric so it's all ready to be ironed. And then I take my applique scissors and I cut everything out. So if you want to pause the video at this point while you prepare your fabric and your applique shapes, feel free to do so. Now that you have all your pieces cut out, it's now time to place everything onto your 8.5-inch background square. So let me see, you peel off the paper backing and place the shapes fusible side down on the right side of the cream background square, centering the design. I started with the stem and then I moved on to the leaves, and then I'll work on the petals, and you can follow the placement guide that's in your pattern that you downloaded for where everything goes. It's also helpful to have all of your pieces lettered, and the lettering for the pieces can be found on the sheet with all the applique shapes. So it's just helps so you get the petals in the right order for when you lay them out to form the flower. You can see how some of the flower petals overlap, how I'm tucking them underneath the next, and I play around with the placement as I lay the flower out. Once you're happy with the placement of everything, I use a board that I got from the dollar store, and I slide it underneath my square in order to transport it over to my ironing board, and this will help keep everything in place. Now it's time to do your machine applique. I'm going to use purple, green, and black thread to go around all the shapes. As you can see, I have my machines set for a 2.5 by 2.5 stitch length and width. And if you're not sure if you're going to like that, it's helpful to just sew on a little piece of scrap fabric to see how you like that stitch before you do your applique on your square. So, and as you can see, I'm going around all the raw edges with all the different colored threads. I find it helpful to stop my machine and pivot with the needle down. And there you see I've got the center done, and now I'm laying out my 2.5-inch squares, and I'm going to try to make it look scrappy, so I lay out the whole table runner this way on my cutting mat so I can play around with the placement of this 2.5-inch squares before I sew them. Once you feel like you have a good scrappy mix and like the placement of everything, then you can start sewing your squares together. Following the pattern, I start out by making the 2 checkerboard rectangles, which will be on each side of your center applique design. Using black pearl cotton or DMC embroidery floss, I do a running stitch to show the flight of the bumblebee. And you can see here that I'm just stitching a wavy line in, sort of following the pattern for the general shape of what the flight would be from the coneflower to the bee. And then I poke my needle through to the back side and do a couple anchoring stitches, trying not to go through to the front. So I sort of use that double thickness of the applique to just run my stitching through the back side to work up towards where the bee's antennas are. And then I'll do a couple straight stitches for the bee's antennae. Again, just following the drawing on the pattern. And then I do a French knot for the tips of the antenna. I just think it looks really cute to have the little French knots on the ends of the antenna. I just think it finishes it off really nicely. And then I'll flip it over and do a couple anchoring stitches and tie a knot, and then just trim off the thread. Now it's time to make your quilt sandwich. I'm going to layer the backing, batting, and table runner front all together. I'm using a thin cotton batting that I had left over from another project. So I'm going to smooth everything together and make sure there's no wrinkles. Get it all smoothed out, and then I'm going to trim away the excess batting. Now you can use a spray-based spray and baste all your layers together for quilting, or you can pin it. I prefer to pin it on something this small. I'll just pin it all together in a few different places using some straight pins. And I'm just going to anchor it in a few different locations to hold all the layers together for when I machine quilt. And I'm going to do a free motion meandering around the applique design, and then I'll use my walking foot and quilt a crosshatch through the squares. I like to use Wonderfill Invisifill thread for my machine quilting. To use the Invisifill, the thread just sort of disappears into the fabric, so it's not as noticeable. So this is probably one of the greatest things I love using, is this thread. Here you can see my quilting is all done. I've got the cross hatching going through the squares, and I meandered around the center. Now it's time to bind your table runner using two 2.5-inch strips by the width of the fabric. Sew these strips end to end, fold in half lengthwise, wrong sides together, and iron. Sew onto the table runner front with a 1/4-inch seam, mitering the corners. Fold the binding around to the outer edge of the table runner and stitch to the back side using a blind stitch with matching thread. Thank you for stopping by today for Mondays with Marcus. I hope that you have enjoyed the project as much as I've enjoyed designing it for you. We have enjoyed sharing our passion for quilting with you. Please join our Facebook group at www.facebook.com/Mondays with Marcus. We look forward to seeing your finished Marcus projects. Please post pictures and be sure to tag me at Quilt Doodle Designs or hashtag Quilt Doodle Designs and hashtag Mondays with Marcus. Have a great day and thanks for quilting with me.